Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of the Boerne Brew here on Boerne Radio, 103.9 FM and 1500 AM. And you can also listen on the Boerne Star and Boerne Radio websites. I'm the host of today's show. My name is Kerry Barboza, and I am the sports editor of the Boerne Star. And we're in the middle of basketball season at all levels, high school, college, NBA, and most high schools are into their district seasons. And so we're going to have the two head coaches from Geneva School of Boerne boys head coach Julius McNeal and girls head coach Aamir McCleary. And Aamir is joining us now. And after the break, Julius McNeal is going to be with us. But for now, we're going to visit with Coach McCleary. Coach, thank you for being a part of the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I know the girls have been pretty good the last few years. Been to the state tournament the last 3 years. That's a lot of wins for you. I know you had a milestone, right? What was it, 100? What was it last year?
Yes, we reached 100 wins last year against Hill Country. A great accomplishment to do, but like I said, I couldn't do it without the hard work of the girls that's been on the floor for us the last couple of years.
And how many years as a head coach?
This is going into my fifth season.
Fifth season. So you basically got about 25 a year, right? Something like that. And part of that is you went deep. I know you went to the state tournament 4 years in a row. What's been the best showing so far? I know the last few years have been state semis.
I think the best showing was 2 years ago. We made it to the state championship. That was 2023. We made it all the way to the state championship and lost to a good and talented Dallas Christian team.
Is this the year you get there and do it? I know that's the goal because you're pretty loaded this year.
Yeah, I think this year is kind of our biggest challenge, I think. I don't think this year we're as deep as we've been the past couple of years, but I think this year is one of our more athletic teams. So we do have a good chance. Our main goal now is just trying to just stay healthy and keep our mindset on, the ultimate goal, which is finishing as one of the, the top 2 teams in the state.
Are the girls, because I know a lot of the girls have been on that successful run the last few years, but are they kind of hungry to get to the, just kind of finish it now? They've been there. I know there's always a thrill to get to state, but when you've been there a few times, you just kind of want to win it, right? I mean, that's kind of the goal.
Yes, and that's kind of the luxury we have as our team, that our 5 seniors that's leading our team this year have been there the last 4 years. So they the last 3 years for them, but they kind of understand, what it takes to get there, and kind of what they called it was it's annoying, to get all the way there and then not complete the ultimate goal. So they have their minds on, the right way, and we want to just continue to play the way we've been playing and hopefully be playing well going into playoffs leading into the state tournament.
Yeah, so 4 state tournament appearances in a row. I know girls are ranked, I think number 4 is one of the polls I saw, number 4 Taps. I had a big win the other night, 74-5. At a certain point in games like that where it's clear that you're the better team, you kind of change your approach and how you coach, or what's your strategy in all that?
In those games, I would call it the more tougher games because obviously we know that we can score buckets, but at those times we kind of use those as, modes of getting better. It's trying to just work on our offense, seeing what we know and what things that we need to improve on, and also right now just trying to keep a mindset of finishing the job. A lot of things that we need to work on as far as like our defense. So we kind of put a point of emphasis on defense, or we put a point of emphasis on rebounding. So we try to make sure that we put a point of emphasis on some things rather than just going and get a fast break layup here and there, and try to run some offense and make sure that we know it, because coming down the line, that's going to be something that we need to know once we face tougher competition.
So as far as the teams in the region that you have to beat to get to state, who are some of the teams that kind of stand out to you right now?
A lot of the Dallas schools, I don't know so many coming out of the Houston area. I know it's going to be a couple schools coming out of the Houston area that we got an eye on. I know Brazos Christian out of Bryan is a pretty tough team. But mainly, I think we're the favorite coming out of our region, but it gets tougher once we see those northern schools.
Yeah, I think Brazos with Christian or Brazos, whatever, I think y'all played them in volleyball, I think, the state tournament, and beat them. Well, let's talk about one of your players, because she had a milestone. Megan Ribel had a pretty good week last week, scored 70 points in 2 games. That's pretty impressive. And that's in a 32-minute game. And what was one of them? She had like 40-something in that.
43 last week against Holy Cross. That was, kind of a game where we knew that she was close, but it was one of those games where we just wanted to see how it played out. And once we saw that she got off to a great start in the first half, we just wanted to kind of, get that accomplishment out the way so we can kind of just lay back and, just go on with the season. So you don't want to put too much stress on her trying to, accomplish that goal. But once we seen it was in reach, we just tried to go for it, and she did it. I mean, it's a credit to her hard work. And she's been here the past 4 years and been our leader really mainly the last 4 years and done a great job for us. And with her, I think she's really stepped up her leadership ability. If you don't know Megan, when she first came in freshman, sophomore year, she doesn't really, talk much or kind of struggle with the leadership. But now I think the last 2 years she's really grown in that aspect, both on the court and off the court.
So the 43, was that a school record?
Yes.
And what was the old record?
42, set by Colton Lutz just on Tuesday.
Oh. What was the girls' record before 43?
Megan Rival with 41.
Oh, wow. So a lot of records being broke. She has the school record, not just girls, but boys and girls.
Currently, Wyatt Bruss can do it too this year. So we have a talented group on both sides, and it's a pleasure, to watch these kids play and break these records. It's good for Geneva and putting Geneva on the map. So it's a pleasure to watch them play each night.
So maybe there'll be a competition. They each try to break the record every time they go out. You never know, right?
I wouldn't doubt it.
That is Aamir McCleary, head coach of the Geneva girls basketball team. You said this is fifth year as a head coach. I know you were at St. Anthony's before that. How long were you there?
I was just there 1 year. I was assistant there for 1 year, and I was head freshman basketball coach over there.
And where were you before that?
Before that, I was actually teaching special education over at Johnson High School, so I didn't do any of the sports scholastically.
And where are you from originally? Are you from San Antonio? Or where are you
I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Oh, how did you end up in Texas?
It's a long story.
We have about 15 minutes, so.
A lot of people don't know here. So in 2003, I had a family member, my brother, Malik Rose. He played for the San Antonio Spurs.
Yes.
So I came down here just to actually visit and celebrate that 2003 championship with him. Stayed for about a week, and it just was the life for a 15-year-old moving into Texas. And really, I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the environment, actually the weather and the people, and just ended up staying. And I've been here ever since.
I didn't know you were related to Malik.
Yeah, that's my brother.
I ate at his restaurant. They used to have one in Alamo Heights area.
Yeah.
And last I heard he was in Atlanta?
Oh, right now he's actually in the front office for the actual NBA office. He does that, and he's the head of the NBA G League.
Oh, okay. So y'all grew up probably playing a lot of ball together, I would imagine.
Yeah, here and there. He's twice my size, so we didn't play as much together. But towards the end of the career, we did play in a couple of men's leagues and things like that. And growing up, when I played basketball in college, I would work out with them and things like that, but not so much like against him, more so like workouts and things like that.
So being around the NBA a little bit, who did you follow? Who do you model your coaching after? So as a player, who did you kind of like and watch and follow and all that? Well,
as a player, my favorite player is Allen Iverson. Growing up in Philadelphia, that's kind of was like the staple. He did, a lot of good things for Philadelphia, and then for a lot of small people like myself. As far as coaching, I'm just a fan of the game. So I, watch a lot of basketball, watch a lot of coaches, and kind of just take pieces from different coaches and different things that I see. So it's not necessarily one person that I'll say I'll model that for. It's a bunch. It's not guys. Even on a professional level. It could be a high school coach, a college coach. Anyway, right. I just try to take a piece from everybody and bottle it up to my own.
I'm sure you've learned from Julius McNeal, who's sitting next to you, and he's going to come on after the break. He's the Geneva boys coach. He's your guy, right?
Yes.
Well, I know you guys are in the middle of the district right now. You got a big tournament coming up literally at the end of the year. I think New Year's Eve is one of the days or right around there, but it's the last 2 days of the year, I think. So tell us about that tournament. How many teams are in it?
Right now we have 8 boys, 8 girls teams. We're really looking forward to it. Just for the simple fact is we have 2 teams in there that gave us 2 losses this year.
Oh,
so one to
payback.
It's to Savio. We lost to them at the buzzer, and then to a tough St. Pius team who really had 2 dominant forces in the paint. So we really want to get a chance to get back at them and just kind of just compete and get us ready for that playoff basketball atmosphere. So those 2 teams are 2 6-8 teams that we matched up very well with. But now we want to try to get over that hump and actually win those games, because those are games that we will need to prepare us for our run late in January, February.
How many years is that tournament going on now? It's been a few years. Maybe Julius knows. He's sitting right there.
This is the 4th annual Hill Country Classic. When Coach McCleary and I took over, that was the year of COVID, so we didn't have a tournament that year. We decided to bring it back the year after COVID, and for the last few years. This year, we have 1 public school currently, but for the last 3 years before this past year, it was a all-private school tournament.
And they come from far away.
Yeah, they do. We have teams coming in from Dallas, Houston, Austin, and I think last year we had 24 teams.
Yes.
We had 12 boys teams.
It was huge. It was a huge tournament.
It was huge. Honestly, it was the biggest private school tournament in the state of Texas, and we were very proud of that. But this past year with, the holidays being in the middle of the week with Christmas at Wednesday, we decided to turn it into a 2-day tournament. And so this year we shrink it down. But next year hopefully we'll be able to bring it back to a 24-team tournament and grow from there.
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
And I know you have 2 gyms. It goes over a couple days. So I know both you guys are in the middle of district. Aamir, who's the team you kind of got your eye on that you got to beat this year in district?
District, I think our toughest opponent will be Carnarvon out of Corpus. I think they always really give us a battle when we face against them, and our girls love playing against them. I think they kind of have like their own little rivalry with them, so we kind of look at that as our toughest opponent and use it as that game that gives us a little more fuel going into it. We actually faced them, I think it was 2 years ago. We faced them almost 4 times in one season, ended up having to play them in the state Final Four to go to the championship. So I think it kind of fuels them as well when they come to play us, and we actually have to travel to Corpus right after the new year and play them at their house. So I think it's going to be a very good atmosphere that we're ready for.
So as far as the girls team, what is the strength? What do you really enjoy about them, and what stands out to you about when they take the court?
I think what we hang our hat on is on the defensive side and try to fly around and use our athleticism that we have. And this year, I think what's our main improvement is how we share the basketball. I think this year is the best year we've had as far as assists and getting everybody involved and sharing the basketball. So a lot of teams, recent years just want to box of one and key in on Megan, and now she's matured a little bit and now getting everyone else involved, and that was more of a team thing. And it's like last night she had 10 assists, and she's had 10 assists almost 3 or 4 times this year. So that's, one of the main parts I think that's separating us this year from previous years.
Yeah, that's a smart player. If they're going to shut her down, she's going to get her teammates involved, right? I mean, she seems pretty high basketball IQ.
Yes.
And what did she say after she got the record and she beat the boys' record? And what did she say? Was she kind of humble about it? What was her approach?
Yeah, it was kind of like a weird approach because, I kind of wanted to celebrate her in front of our fans, and it was kind of just a little bit of energy. But I think she was, proud and happy to get it finally done. Like I said, I know they have their own little rivalry between the boys and girls, so I think she kind of felt good to kind of have that edge. But I think most importantly, she just wanted to get that, done and get on with the season.
Was she aware? Like, I have 40, I have 39. Was she? I know you guys were counting. But was she aware?
She was kind of aware, but she wasn't really on. So she knew she was kind of close, but she didn't know how close she was until we told her like midway through the second quarter.
Aamir McCleary, I want to thank you for joining us here on the Boerne Brew. Good luck the rest of the way in district. We'll be following you in the playoffs, and thank you for being part of the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yep. We're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we're going to visit with the boys coach, Julius McNeal. He's brought him a guest. One of his players will be with us coming up after this break.
You're listening to the Boerne Brew, presented by the Boerne Star. And the weekend edition of the Boerne Star is now in your mailbox, inbox, or at your corner store. It's the Boerne Star. Now back to the Boerne Brew with Kerry Barboza.
Welcome back to the Boerne Brew here on Boerne Radio, 103.9 FM and 1500 AM. I'm the host of today's show. I'm Kerry Barboza, the sports editor of the Boerne Star. We want to thank Aamir McCleary for being on the show. He's the Geneva girls coach, and he joined us in the first half of the show, and now we're going to continue with the Geneva boys coach. He kind of jumped in there a little bit to answer some questions in the first half, Julius McNeal. We want to thank you for being on the show, and you brought a guest with you. Tell us about your guest.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kerry. Yeah, I brought Wyatt Bruss with us today. He's our senior guard. He's been at Geneva since kindergarten. So, that's one thing that we really, really, really love at Geneva. We have a lot of kids that we've had grow up since kindergarten. Coach McCleary and I, we get to go out and watch them at lunch, recess. We see them on a basketball court at an early age. We scout from the playground.
Yeah, you kind of know, right?
Yeah, we recruit from the playground.
You kind of know who's going to be the ones that are going to stand out a little bit, right?
We do. We get to see that at an early age, so that's kind of a blessing.
Well, I know, Wyatt, you played football. And
Yes,
what was the deal? Because I know because I know they were trying to get you to play, and you kind of worked out a deal with Coach Gaston. What was the deal?
Yeah, so I played football in 7th grade, and I just kind of went away from it, didn't really enjoy it. And then this year, Gaston approached me and was like, hey, we really want you on the team, but we know that basketball is your main sport. So if you come play when basketball season starts, if you want to, you can go straight to basketball. And then I kind of hurt my ankle. The original plan was I was going to do football and basketball at the same time.
Right.
But once I hurt my ankle, I was like, I'm going to play it safe and just go to basketball.
So how many games did you get to play? What was that like?
I played a total of 6 games, and I actually really enjoyed it. I was really happy I played. But I was also happy that I decided to call it quits when I did and go right to basketball.
Got to know when to fold them, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, Julius, how long have you been with the boys' basketball team, head coach?
So the head coach, crazy story. This is my 5th year as the head boys basketball coach. Like we were saying earlier, Coach McCleary and I actually got hired the same year. I actually got hired a couple months before he did because I got hired before COVID actually happened. So it was a crazy story. It's like our basketball coach previously, Philip Bainitz, he was here. He decided to leave around spring break. In 2020, that's when COVID hit. And I got hired like in April as the boys head boys basketball coach.
And Eric Boerboom, right, hired you guys. And he was the Geneva AD, and he's moved on. He's a head coach now somewhere. I think one of the neat stories is you guys played him last year. What was that like? You played him in the playoffs, wasn't it? Playoff game? What was that like facing the guy that hired you?
Oh, man, it was a crazy experience. I don't know how many guys actually come into coaching and they get to actually face off against the guy that hired them and believed in him and gave him their first chance as a head coach. But, yeah, it was crazy. I mean, that game, it was the first round of the playoffs. We came in. And, of course, I've known him for a while. He's known me for a while. So we kind of know what we like to both do. And it was a really crazy game. This guy actually right here sitting to my right, I mean, honestly.
He had the game winner,
right?
He
had the game winner.
I remember that.
Yeah, came out on the corner, hit a 3, put us up, and, I mean, the rest was history. But it was a storybook ending for sure.
Yeah, and what I remember that game, you guys were trailing for a lot of it, and you kind of rallied at the end. And then what was it, Wyatt? Was it y'all down 1 or 2? And then what happened on the play that you remember?
We were down 1, and we fouled them, and the guy missed both free throws.
That's right.
Which was huge. And then we ran a play that we run all the time, just a little down screen to the corner. Jack Walker passed it to me and just hit the 3.
Don't give out too many plays.
And were you wide open, and what were you thinking when you shot it? Could you tell it was good?
Yeah, when I shot it, I knew it was good, but
yeah.
I came off. It wasn't really like a clean catch. It was a bounce pass, didn't catch it well, and just kind of faded. And once I shot it, I knew it was good.
Yeah. What I remember, they still had a couple seconds to work with, right? And they kind of got the ball up near half court. Didn't they kind of launched a half-court shot?
So when he made the shot, there was actually about 4 seconds left. They pushed the ball up to half court. They called the timeout. And then they had, like you said, they had a chance. They drew up something. They tried to run an elevator screen. We kind of played it over the top, so it kind of messed up what they had planned, and then they kind of had to shoot a half-court heave at the end. And it was close. It actually was closer than it should have been.
Yeah, it was close. It was close. Yeah. So did you kind of know what he was going to call, the fact that you knew him, and did he kind of know what you were going to be calling at certain times just because you knew each other?
Yeah, I think, of course, you know what people like to do as coaches. I mean, we put in a lot of hours watching film, scouting, and all those things, and I knew some of the inbounds plays he liked to run because he kind of tried to tell me it was some of the plays we should run. So that kind of probably helped me in that situation. So I knew one of his favorite plays was to run a little elevated screen to his best shooter and try to give him the ball. So that's what we tried to play.
And what were the words spoken to him, Coach Boerne, after? Was there anything spoken right then, or did that come later, the talk?
Yeah, it came later as a talk. Right in that moment, I mean, like we talked about, I appreciate him because he was the one who gave me the opportunity. But at that point, during that time right there, I just wanted to celebrate with the guys. I mean, that was our first home playoff game in, 5 or 6 years. It was our home first playoff win in about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And it was just a moment that I think that we just wanted to celebrate. It was a really big moment for our boys program.
That is Julius McNeal, head coach of the Geneva boys basketball team. He has Wyatt Bruss, one of his seniors. You guys played a game last week, and Wyatt, Colton, and Jake y'all had 72 points, and I think they had all 72 points. Is that right?
They did. Yeah. We call it the Big Three. I mean, that's it's like the Boston Celtics, Miami Heat, and the Golden State Warriors. So I feel like we do have our own Big Three, and they pretty much, for the most part, they foot the bill when it comes to scoring. But we do have other people that come in, and one of the things that we really talk about in our program, and I think that our guys have bought into, is doing your 1/5. And I think that, sometimes, especially in a sport like basketball, that it can be all eyes on the person with the ball, and the guys who are scoring all the points, those guys stand out more probably when you look at box scores. But we always talk about doing your 1/5, and we got 2 other guys right now in the starting lineup, Jack Walker and Harlan, that those guys right there do their 1/5, and that 1/5 honestly, to me, is just as good as these guys putting points on the board.
And Colton got the record against who?
That was JP2 shirts.
That's right. And did you know, like, were you counting points and kind of knowing he was near it? Or
You know what's crazy? We weren't counting points. I mean, I know that day, it was kind of like the story that you heard from Coach McCleary earlier. That day, he was feeling it. I mean, he was. He came out guns a-blazing. And, when you get into those kind of moments, you can tell that somebody's rolling. And so you just try to give him the ball. Like Wyatt and Jack Walker, they did a good job of getting him the ball in his spots. And he was, like I said, he was just feeling it. And he kind of was just locked in. And as the game was going on, I figured he was getting close. But luckily, at that school, which is so funny because normally we don't play at gyms that have this, they actually had the points on the scoreboard.
Oh, the individual.
Yes, so you could see the individual. So we looked up there. I remember looking up there at one point. He had like 36, and I was like, oh, he might get the record. And then, of course, he did. And but it was short-lived because of Megan, of course. But, yeah,
he
did, yeah.
Next game. Sure. So what were you thinking? I mean, could you just tell it was his game? He was just on? What was going on out there on the court?
Yeah, you could kind of just tell. Everyone on the court could. I think in the first half he came out and hit like 4 threes at like 21 at halftime. And so we kind of just knew it was his game. We were up big. And so we kind of just kept feeding him the ball, getting him all his shots. And then, of course, as McNeal said, we could see what he was at on the scoreboard, so we knew he was just a couple shots away.
You talk about the 1/5, Coach. Does it bother some of those other guys? They don't get to score. They don't probably touch the ball as much as they want, or is it just kind of bought in and it's a team first kind of a thing?
They touch it. They just know where to get it to after they touch it.
No, just don't shoot it.
Yeah, all right. No, honestly, I will say that it takes people with strong character to be able to buy into that.
Yeah.
But I do think that we've built a culture in our basketball program that when we win, we all celebrate. And I think those people who aren't scoring they're not scoring big points like these other guys, but they know they're doing their 1/5 and it's contributing to the win. I truly believe that, like I said earlier, those two guys right there are just as valuable as these other three guys that are scoring all the points. I mean, if we didn't have those two guys who weren't unselfish, I mean, we wouldn't be in the position we're in now.
So, Wyatt, what do you enjoy most about playing for Coach McNeal, and what do you enjoy most about being at Geneva?
Well, I mean, playing for McNeal is great. I played for him all 4 years of my career. So I've got to know him really well just personally, and he just genuinely cares for all of us, and he's just a fun guy to be around. And he also just pushes us really hard in practice, but then in games, he draws up plays for us, but then just lets us play to our strengths and pushes us to just be who we can be.
Well, I know there's Geneva kids that have gone on to public schools. You stayed there. What was it that kept you there at Geneva, and what do you enjoy most about being there?
Well, I believe
you got an NIL deal. Is that what it was?
No, a little bit.
Free lunch. Is that what it was?
For my junior year, I actually really considered going to Boerne.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah. And it was really close. A couple of my friends, close friends of mine, went to Boerne, so I was like, I'll go over with them, play basketball there. It's a bigger school. But then I kind of I'd known McNeal, I'd known Coach Johnson, gotten really close to them, know how much they care about me and the rest of the players on the team. And I just realized that there was a lot of opportunity at Geneva, and I really liked the way we play at Geneva, the whole 1/5 thing. We're not worried about how many points we have. It's rather just like the team, and we're just focused on that. And I just think all of that together kept me to stay instead of go to Boerne.
Well, that's awesome. I know Coach McNeal is happy that you stayed.
I am.
Coach, the tournament you got coming up, who are some of the boys' teams that are going to be at that big tournament coming up for you guys?
Yeah, so we actually have Cypress Christian coming. That's where Eric Barboom coaches. They're coming. We have Dallas coming. Also, we have Versati, which is out of Houston as well. Logos Prep, which is out of Houston. Austin Veritas, and us, Castle Hills. How many teams is that? I feel like that might be the Logos Prep. I think I said Logos Prep, so yes. So we got them coming from everywhere.
Yeah, I would guess playing those good teams is going to help you get ready because, you're already in district, but it's going to help you down the long run, isn't it?
I think so. We got our football players back the week before Thanksgiving, so sometimes, when you get them in, you have to start bringing them in a little later than the guys you've had since the offseason. Being able to get in like 3 tournaments before we get back because that'll be our 3rd tournament that we'll have before we get back from Christmas break, and it just allows us to get them in games, play a lot of games. And honestly, I truly believe that, before you get into the heart of district, the more you can get on the court and play and put those guys out there in different situations, the better it'll help you in the long run.
What's it going to take this year, have a deep playoff run?
For us to just continue to play the way we're playing and being who we are. So that was what I'd like to tell our guys. Just be who we are. I think this team has one of the best opportunities we've had in a long time to be able to, showcase what we have.
Overall record like 15-2, right? Something like that.
16-2 after last night.
So you guys are in state rank. I know last year made the playoffs, but it kind of been a drought before that, hadn't it?
Well, no. Since I've taken over, come on, Kerry, man. Since I've taken over,
deep run.
Since I've taken over, we've made it to playoffs every year.
Right.
This last year was our first playoff win, but we've made it to playoffs 5 years.
Wyatt, what's the goal this year, senior year? What's the goal?
I mean, the first objective is to win district, which we're off to a good start.
Yeah.
And then obviously make it a state, and then once you make it a state, anything can happen. Win a state championship would be the goal.
Yeah. And is that the goal for you, Coach, get state?
Of course it is. And like Wyatt said, but it's also, we preach another thing. We preach all the time about going 1-0. So we just got to go one, especially in district games, you just got to go 1-0. Once you go 1-0, then next you'll have another game the following Friday or Tuesday. You got to go 1-0 again. And if we just continue to keep our mindset going 1-0, the end goal would be able to play in a state championship. I think as coaches, that's all our end goal. So that's our goal here as well.
Well, good luck the rest of the way. I want to thank you, Coach, for joining us. Coach McNeal, thank you, Wyatt, for being on the show. And thank you, Aamir is still in the studio sitting over there. Appreciate you guys coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here on the Boerne Brew, and we'll talk to you next time.